Yesterday, I talked with Pam Lovin, who told me her husband had been taking extra-strength bufferin capsules for back pain. Well, the container had no seal on it, so they became concerned when they found a capsule that looked like it was tampered with, especially after hearing of deaths attributed to Tylenol capsules in Chicago. So Pam started calling agencies, asking them what she should do with the capsule.
So I called the Narcotics and Drug Control first. Well, then they told me to call the Poison Control next. And then when I called them, they told me to call the police department.
What'd they tell you?
Well, the police department told me that I should take it to the nearest pharmacist and have tests run on it.
Well, Pam took the capsule back to her pharmacist, but she said they didn't know what to do with it either. So she turned it over to me, and I took it to the City County Health Department and talked with Ivan Smith of Consumer Protection.
It is tore away here, but it's rolled back underneath there, so that somebody's had that apart. It does look like that. Yeah, I would say that this should be taken to the food and drug officials over on Broadway and have them take it and check it for, well, for anything, number one, probably cyanide, or if anybody had access to cyanide around it and could get it and put it in it.
But when I finally located the local food and drug office, no one was there. Well, this morning the agents were in. They did not want to go on camera, but said they would take that suspicious capsule and send it to the regional office in Dallas, where it would be tested for cyanide. They said anyone with a suspicion about a food or a drug can call and leave a message with them at 231-4544, and they will investigate. And there is good news on another In Your Corner report from earlier this month. You may recall the story of Keith Sossaman and his wife who bought their first home on a shoestring budget. The house was financed through a government-insured FHA loan. However, it had been inspected earlier by the Veterans Administration. Now, there were no objections to the condition of the roof in that inspection, but when the insurance company inspected it, they objected to it. In fact, they said they could not renew the insurance unless the now leaking roof was repaired. So Keith was caught in the middle. He had to have insurance or the FHA could foreclose on the loan and he could lose his house, but he could not afford to put on a new roof, nor could he afford to pay for high-risk insurance on the house. Well, after we aired Keith's predicament, a viewer from Hobart who wishes to remain anonymous called and said he would pay for the labor for the repairs, because we also received a call from Mike Maines of GenStar Building Materials, who wanted to donate the materials for repairing the roof, all to the amazement of Keith and Carla Sossaman. You may recall the case of Belinda Paxton, who said her portable color television was popping and cracking. She found a large ad in the Yellow Pages for Bill's TV Repair, offering same-day service. So she took her set to Bill's TV and lost use of the set for months.
My TV was in better shape before I brought it in to him than when I took my TV home.
Yeah. Belinda said Bill's owner, John Farrell, told her the set was fixed, but she said it wasn't and took it back. The second time, it still wasn't fixed, so she took it back a third time and still no luck. So she gave up and called In Your Corner. Well, John Farrell wouldn't interview with us until we surprised him during a house call and asked why the set wasn't fixed and why he wouldn't give Belinda her money back.
Well, you want to get my picture, huh?
I want to get your picture. We also would like to know if you've decided to give Paxton her money back.
I'm going to think about it a little bit first.
What other considerations do you have to do? We have some other questions to
Well,
ask.
did she want to bring her set back down to the shop and let me work on it?
No. Well, John Farrell told me he would consider a refund if Belinda would bring the set back again. Well, Belinda refused and turned to legal action. This sort of problem was tackled by the district attorney's office. Using 3 new portables, experts created a simple malfunction. They blew the AC power line fuses and put them back in the sets. That was a simple malfunction because it's the first thing the television repair guide tells you to check if you have no sound and picture. You simply have to replace the fuse to repair it. Well, in the sting operation, the sets were taken to 12 area repair shops. 5 made unnecessary repairs.
Decker & Sons, we had to replace the power supply board, or they did replace it when all they needed to do was replace the fuse. West Wise, same thing, replaced the entire board. Best Way not only replaced the power supply board, they also replaced what they call a CRT board And they gave us back a bunch of parts that don't even belong to this set, and represented to us that they actually had replaced these parts. Carl's TV, when the lady investigator went back in, they gave her a bunch of parts and said, here, we had to replace these parts in your TV. Those parts did not come out of our TV. So again, they represented work that they did not do. Quick's TV, again, replaced the power supply board.
Macy said in some cases the cost of repairs approached the price of the television, all for a little $1.50 fuse. I talked with a manager of one of the repair shops filed against today. Paula Campbell, manager of Bestway, said she put little faith in such a sting operation.
Sure. But if you take my 3 technicians, 3 from Sight and Sound, 3 from over here, you're going to get 9 different opinions as to what causes a problem in a set, you know. So I'm not concerned about it.
She said Bestway charges for an estimate and picking up the set, but before they start the work, they send the customer a detailed estimate of needed repairs and their costs. If the customer approves and signs the estimate, then they begin work. However, a customer would have to take their word for it that the repairs are necessary, and the district attorney says the consumer is in the dark in that area.
Unnecessarily. It's my opinion, it's my very serious opinion, that the consumers, that the citizens of Oklahoma County are probably losing more money, and these are hard times, they're probably losing more money in this way to unscrupulous operators than they are to the robbers and the burglars put together.
Zeke Lay is one of those who believes in the efficiency of an underground home, but Zeke is questioning the efficiency of the contractor he hired to construct the vertical concrete walls. Zeke had an architect draw up the plans for the home, and he's contracting the building of the home himself. But he hired Cliff Byler to put up the walls and the footing and agreed to pay Cliff when the job was done. Zeke says, yes, the walls are up, but there's so many things wrong with them that he considers the job unfinished. But where did you first notice that things were going wrong with this contractor?
Well, when he started asking me to make compromises, and I thought I was doing him a favor by making these compromises, they weren't that big of a thing. But when I come back, he wouldn't even do the compromise right. He would do something, whatever was at hand, and then tell me that's the way it was. In pouring concrete, you can't go back. Once it's poured, it's done. And as in that fireplace vent there, he was supposed to put it there, and he missed it, and I caught him before the walls were poured, but the forms were up, and he told me, I can't do it, I'd like to chisel it out later, and I said fine, and then he wound up just dropping a piece of pipe down in the wall right before he poured, and just told me that's the way it was when it was done.
Now, Zeke alleges that much of the job went that way. He showed me a wall that dipped inward, sort of a concave effect. He said that wall will be difficult to cover. He said the wing walls that stretch outward from the house were to be 30 feet, but measured a little over 25. On the outside of the wall that will be covered by earth, Zeke showed me holes remaining from the concrete forms. Zeke said the holes are to be filled and then covered with hydrocide, the waterproof coating. But Zeke says the holes were just covered over with the coating, making a bubble effect, which might collect moisture later on.
Now that's the thing. You can show with the camera what is wrong here, but just with the quality workmanship and some other things that's gone wrong, you kind of wonder whether there might be bigger things in the future go wrong, and that could mean anywhere from water leaking into something collapsing, or just a lot of work doing. Right now I'm going to have to do a lot of work just to get it back in shape where I can use it.
Zeke said Cliff Byler wants his money now and has threatened to file suit against Zeke's property to collect that money. Well, Zeke alleges Cliff won't come back and make the job right. I talked to Cliff Byler, who said Zeke wouldn't let him come back.
I still say that we are, by law, and you can talk to any contractor in town, are allowed to fix anything that the owner, that's reasonable. Now that's reasonable. We are allowed to fix anything that he doesn't like. But, there again, he can't hold up our money on this by law. Contract says when you're finished, you'll pay.
I see.
And he hasn't.
And you feel you are finished down there?
I feel I am finished to the extent that anything that needs fixed, we go back and fix it 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
Oh, I see.
We don't have any time limit on this.
I see.
Anything goes wrong, we go back. We've had leaks. Everybody else has had leaks too.
Sure.
That built underground houses. We go back 3 years and fix them. Dig them up and fix them. There's no other contractor in town does this.
Well, Zeke alleges Cliff did not make that offer to him. Zeke claims the structure's not put up right and therefore not done. Well, Cliff said he had the structure checked by contractors and architects and that they couldn't find anything wrong. I checked with Zeke's architect, Joe Hilton in Norman, who drew the plans for his underground home. Hilton alleges he checked the walls and after his inspection, quote, found quite a bit of poor workmanship that would not generally be considered up to industry standards. Jean says she knows very little about cars, but she says she can tell when her car is leaking oil. Now, when it first started, the oil was everywhere. Much of it's been cleaned off the top of the motor, but it's still visible on the bottom side, especially when it burns off after the car warms up. And the oil's been spattering out the back, spotting the back side of the car. All this, plus the $212 she paid to have the problem taken care of.
Well, it was leaking oil, and he took it up there to have them stop the oil leak. And we got it back 2 days later. It was still leaking. We thought we'd wait and see. We waited about, I guess, over the weekend. Took it back up, and they kept it a week, and I got it out of the shop, and it would just barely run. It would just rattle and shake and shimmy. And I don't know why it was doing that unless it was lack of oil, but it was still leaking the oil just like it always did.
Jean said her boyfriend took the car to a new garage, this time J&F Service. The first trip cost $79. They replaced the fuel pump and the filter. More work was done on the second trip, costing $132. Well, Jean says she is unemployed and has a little girl to take care of while she's looking for a job, so she couldn't afford to take the car back, pay more money, and still not have the leak fixed. And now she's having problems with the battery.
The oil drips down, and I guess the heat of the engine tosses it up, and it gets into the alternator and clogs the alternator, and then that causes it to pull on the battery more. And when it pulls on the battery, you know what that is. Eventually it just pulls it down to where it won't start unless it's been charged.
Jean says she's been pouring quite a bit of oil into that car, and it appears much of it ends up on the driveway. Well, I stopped in at J&F Service and talked with Ed Graves, who did not want to interview on camera. He said Jean's high-mileage car had quite a few problems. An oil leak could be coming from several places, he said. I asked why Jean was told the car was ready and could be picked up, and not told the problem might not have been remedied. Ed said the only thing they are guilty of is not making sure there were no more leaks, but he agreed to examine the car again and fix it free if they were at fault. I talked with the owner, John Jarvis, by phone, who said he wanted no problems like this. He was trying to build a good reputation and wanted Jean to bring the car back to be repaired. I visited Father Donahoe at the St. James Rectory this morning. He told me that after AmCare was called, it took quite a while to get any response. Ironically, the patient's home was just 2 blocks from South Community Hospital. Father Donahoe says he has seen ambulances sitting at the hospital, so he thought response would be quick.
The time that was given to me that the first call went in on was 1829.
In civilian time would be 6:29 in the evening.
6:29 in the evening.
Let's see. What happened from there? Can you tell me?
An ambulance was heard in the area, and nothing showed up. I called back, and I was told that there was one on the way. And then there was another waiting period, and then the fire rescue squad showed up. And some minutes later, St. Anthony's Coronary Care Unit showed up. And then towards probably 25 minutes later, AmCare ambulance showed up. And it was said that this ambulance came from Presbyterian Hospital.
Do you have any idea what the time span was from the time that first call went in till the final arrival of the AmCare ambulance?
I would say at least 25 minutes.
Father Donahoe says by that time he had lifted the 240-pound man from the bathtub, unable to tell if he were still alive. He said St. Anthony's Coronary Care Unit did perform emergency treatment when they arrived, and the man survived. He also said a crewman from one of the 3 emergency units, who will remain anonymous, raised some questions about the response time of AmCare.
You were asked to raise this issue, is that correct?
Yes, I was. I was asked to raise the issue.
Well, I raised the issue with AmCare. Why did it take so long for AmCare to arrive? Why did a fire rescue truck and the St. Anthony's Coronary Care Unit get there first, still after some delay?
The call was dispatched to a unit that was delivering a patient at Presbyterian Hospital. At that time in the city, we had 13 emergency medical resources available. And of those 13, 8 were either had been dispatched to patients, were en route to medical facilities with patients, or on scenes with patients. The remaining units available were too great of distance. There was one in Edmond, as an example.
Willis says AmCare works cooperatively with fire rescue as well as St. Anthony's Coronary Care Units and others. He said those units were closer, so they were sent to help. An AmCare unit arrived later to assist. Willis says 25 minutes is not a good response time. However, their units were stretched to the maximum and their switchboard was still receiving more calls. Willis says they staff for the normal workload, but they cannot predict occasional instances where almost all the units become tied up at once on emergencies and the rest are too far away.
The MCCR you're talking about is St. Anthony's, right?
A horrifying thought, a car accident with an infant child flying loosely in the car. Tests have shown it's not much safer with a parent holding the child. It's a risk that needs attention, since 600 to 800 infants have died this year in car accidents across the nation, with 60 to 80,000 seriously injured. And it should be of particular concern to Oklahomans, since the state ranks 6th in the nation for infants killed in car accidents. And they say 96% could have been prevented by car seats for infants. A law requiring the seats failed in Oklahoma, so Dr. Stephen Ryder, a pediatrician, is pushing a voluntary effort.
These young children really can't speak out for themselves at all. If parents make bad decisions, there's no one to protect the child. When we're talking about the very small child, somebody needs to be a spokesman, and I think that logically falls upon the pediatricians.
Since this is Buckle Up Your Baby Month, Shepherd Mall sold car seats this past weekend at wholesale prices. 600 families took advantage. There are still 200 seats available at the mall's main office at a cost of $21. In Your Corner was informed of 3 city hospitals' programs to see that new parents get car seats for their infants. So we began a drive to locate car seats and contributions. ABC Baby Furniture at Britton and May donated the first seat. Saleswoman Catherine Samples feels strongly about car seats.
I was hit from the side, and my child was in the front seat with me at the time, strapped in a car seat. If he had not been in the car seat, he would have been severely hurt.
Car seat manufacturer Quester also donated 3 baby seats, as well as manufacturer Strolley. All will be distributed among Baptist, Children's Memorial, and Mercy hospitals. Well, Oklahoma City's car dealers also got in on the program. Jim Holmes of Burrell Holmes Ford started out with a donation of $200.
I know from my own position with 2 children, within that age, that I like to keep them tied down.
Other car dealers donating were Jackie Cooper Incorporated, Adam Chevrolet, Steve Burke Chevrolet, Eskridge Olds and Honda, Fred Jones Ford, Pete Gudis Buick, Woody Ayers Chevrolet, Don Bolin Incorporated, Dub Richardson Ford, Bob Scholl Volkswagen, and Midwest City AMC Jeep. Well, today was the kickoff for Buckle Up Your Baby Month, and I took some of the seats to Baptist Hospital, which will give new parents a seat for a $10 deposit. When the child outgrows it in 9 months, the seat is to be returned and $5 refunded. Baptist gave a seat to a brand new parent this morning. I drew the name of Lois Gibson of Oklahoma City, who was a very surprised recipient.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Who is this one now?
This is Shanika Antoinette Gibson.
We also gave 2 of the donated baby car seats to Mercy Hospital, which is working on a similar program for babies born at Mercy. Children's Memorial Hospital has had a program going for 5 months now for parents who have infants in the neonatal intensive care unit. Parents pay $5 and receive a car seat until the baby outgrows it. Then they return it for a refund, and another parent receives it. Bruce Palmer and his father-in-law, Ilo Ashmore, have been doing some research on this problem themselves. And what they found, they didn't like. Bruce and his wife let their small dog, Coco, out one Friday morning. When it didn't return, they called their vet, since the dog had a tag with the vet's number on it. No luck there, so they called the dog catcher.
Angela, her first name was Angela.
What organization?
This is with the Del City organization. She's the only dog catcher Del City's got. Her office is at the Del City Police Station. She told us that we could pick the dog up. She'd meet us Tuesday to pick up the dog. So, well, they have a certain place. It's called the Del City Garage. It's probably up by the police station somewhere. That's if they find the owners, they go pick up the dog at the university and then bring him back out here. Anyway, I called her Tuesday morning and she told me that my dog was put to sleep, or that my dog was dead. She didn't say put to sleep. She said my dog was dead, and that I'd have to call a Mr. Joe Hardesty at the university to find out. So I called him, and he told me that the dog had a runny nose and had a cold and had not been fed all weekend, or had not eaten all weekend, and that he felt best to be put to sleep.
Bruce's father-in-law said he thought they violated state law by not holding the dog long enough.
My understanding is that the state law is 15 days for untagged dogs and 30 days for tagged dogs. And, of course, I went out to the Animal Research Foundation to look for the dog, and Hardesty showed me through out there. And I got to look at the tag from the Del City animal people that showed the dog was stray and tagged, and the time and the place it was picked up.
Ilo said the dog ended up at the OU Health Sciences Center Animal Research Facility. In tracking down how it got there, I started with Del City's dog catcher at the police station. I wanted to ask Angela if an effort had been made to find the owner and why the dog went to the research facility.
You need to go over to City Hall, which is over on 29th Street, and speak to the personnel director, who is John Brown.
John Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You have any comments on this case?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh. Okay.
You need to talk to him.
All right. But you do have a contract of some sort.
I ain't saying nothing. You need to talk to him.
When I arrived at City Hall, I was told Personnel Director John Brown had left sometime before I arrived. The city manager and his secretary were out. The city attorney was in court. The police chief was out till 4:30. I did learn Del City has a contract with the OU Animal Research Facility to take their dogs. The Del City clerk, after some persuasion, showed me city council minutes of the agreement, which did not detail it. She did not know where the city code on it was. At the Animal Research Facility, I learned that Dr. William Britz was in charge of the program program, I ask him about Palmer's dog.
Yes, I understand it. The animal, when it arrived here, and we have records to show when it arrived and a description of it, it did not have an identification as being an owned animal. So therefore, we had no reason to suspect that there would be an owner found. Now, I know that Del City makes every effort that they can to find owners for animals. Whether or not the animal had a tag at the time it was picked up, I don't know. But it did not have a tag when it was received in our facility.
Yesterday, Bruce Palmer of Del City told In Your Corner when he and his wife let their dog Coco out one Friday morning, they never saw it again. They soon learned the Del City dog catcher had picked it up. Bruce said it had a tag with their veterinarian's phone number on it, but he said he had not been contacted by Del City. Del City finally returned Bruce's calls and said the dog had been taken to the OU Animal Research Holding Facility. They would pick it up for him and he could get it the following Tuesday. However, when Bruce called Tuesday morning, he was told the dog was dead. It had been put to sleep at the Animal Research Holding Facility near the Oklahoma City Zoo. Trying to find out why put me on a trail which led to Dr. William Britz, head of animal research at the OU Health Sciences Center in Oklahoma City.
Del City has an agreement that we've had since the summer of '81, I guess, whereby they no longer maintain an animal pound as such. They pick up strays and bring them to our facility, and then we hold them for the 3-day holding period, which is required by their municipal statutes. And at the end of that time period, if Del City has not found the owner or there's no indication that the animal is wanted any longer, then we make a determination as to whether or not we want the animal for research. If we do, then we have to keep the animal for a total of 15 days if it's an unregistered animal, or for 30 days if it is a registered animal. In most cases, those animals that have some sort of tag on them or some indication that they have been a pet, we won't keep them for research.
But that raises the question of whether or not a university facility can be a dog pound for area cities, and if so, does it act as a city dog pound would? Members of the Oklahoma Humane Association say no.
State law states that animals can be turned over to medical research provided they shall have been impounded. 15 days for unlicensed and 30 days for licensed animals, and been available to be reclaimed by their owners or adopted.
The Humane Association says Del City's dogs are going straight to the University Research Holding Facility instead of being held in that city. That denies a Del City resident the opportunity to go and look for his dog or to adopt a dog, since entry to the holding facility is restricted.
The public, I don't feel like the public can get in, and that's what a pound is, where the public can go to look for a lost animal. You're held at in the waiting room 20 minutes. I was, when we went out there, we had to wait 20 minutes for someone from the OU Health Sciences Center to come and escort us through. I was told by the girl in the reception office that it was not policy for the public to come through there.
In summary, the Humane Association would like to see the policy changed of taking dogs straight to the OU Animal Research Holding Facility. The city manager of Del City, Dennis Beach, said the loss of Bruce Palmer's dog was an unfortunate mistake. He says they'll be reviewing their contract with Animal Research. And Dr. Britz of OU is apologetic that Palmer's dog was put to sleep. He said it might have been stopped if the facility's phone lines had not been accidentally cut on a particular day. However, Dr. Britz is unhappy with the uproar over the system because he says the system provides them with animals for research that may ultimately benefit everyone.